Hi guys, Chris here from the AMP Life. Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my recent travels as a tourist to Europe, as well as a bit of an adventure travel to the United States. I'd like to share my experiences, the plans that I had made, and possibly some of the mistakes that I made. But the idea ultimately is for me to convey what I had learned traveling by air as well as by car at my destinations that made my trip as seamless and as enjoyable as possible. I've got a ton of notes here that I've made. I hope I get to cover everything, keep the video nice and short. I'd like to ask, for those of you that haven't been to this channel, there's a subscribe button. Please hit that button and hit that notification bell for any future videos that I post. And for those of you that are subscribers, welcome back. Thank you for your support to this channel. If you do enjoy this content, please hit that like button. It does help the video to become more visible, to be able to reach more of us amputees. It's 2020 and it's been an unbelievable run since this channel has started in mid or beginning 2018. I've enjoyed it immensely. I've enjoyed your company immensely. I enjoy your comments immensely, and I'm forever grateful to all of you that participate in this channel. There are some regular names, and really appreciate you guys coming back and all the people posting suggestions for videos such as this one. I've had a few people ask about travel tips. I hope you get what you asked for. So in my travels recently, I think the most important thing I want to share is that look, I just want to say how excited I am about 2020 and about all the content that I'd like to put out there. And I really hope that we have a good year, and that for you guys that are either new or older amputees, that you really find what you need for this year, and that you, like me, find the happiness and the joy that we can experience as an amputee. There's so much for us out there. I truly hope that I can pass some of that on to you, and that you go out there and that you find it. Okay, so I traveled to two destinations. First, as a tourist to Europe with my wife, and I had to come back from Europe and then travel to the States, and it was a lot of flying. All in all, I calculated it was in excess of 100 hours of not only flying but transiting from airport to airport. And if I had not done my homework well in advance and practiced some of the tips that I'm going to share with you guys, I think it would have been nightmarish to spend all that time in airports and on planes. But I did plan. In fact, I drew a timeline from when I left on the first trip to when I returned on the last one, and everything in between, and planned it really carefully. And ultimately it worked out really well, and it enabled me to really enjoy, maximize my time there, and not have to worry about transport issues, flights, accommodation, and so forth. So let's start with preparation. I really suggest it's worthwhile not to do the bookings online. Well, I didn't do it myself. I involved a travel agent, gave her all my details as an amputee with regards to seating arrangements, transfers, etc. And she did a fantastic job to make this whole process as seamless as possible. On my return flight from the States, I had to, just to give you an idea, I had to fly from, in one go, from Moab to Denver, Moab in Utah to Denver, Colorado, from all in ones, Denver, Colorado to San Antonio in Texas, San Antonio to Minneapolis, and Minneapolis to Amsterdam, Amsterdam down to Cape Town. And that was excruciating. But I must tell you that the planning in between made it a lot easier. So what do we need? Let's consider the first the booking, getting the right seats on the plane. So I'm a left leg amputee, so I always make sure that when I get a booking that I have the left side seat, so that I can put in other words, that all the passengers are seated to my right, so that I can put my amputated leg in the passageway in between the seats, from the one set block of seats to the next block of seats, because the seat tends to push up against the prosthetic leg, and it becomes very uncomfortable because the socket pushes up into my groin, which becomes which hurts after a while. So tip number one is book that seat so that you can put your prosthetic leg on the side where the passageway is, so that you can take it out. Some people take off their prosthetic legs. There's a positive and a negative to that. The positive being, of course, more legroom. The negative is you have to find storage place for the leg up in the overhead compartment, which can be difficult. It's impossible to store it under the seat. I've tried that. So the positives, of course, is it's more comfortable. For me, I keep the leg on, reason being I find that my stump swells over a long flight, and when I have to put it on afterwards, it brings about a lot of discomfort. So I much prefer to keep my leg on. Also, if we sit on the side where we're in the aisle, it's much easier for me to get in and to walk up and down every once in a while to circulate the blood a little bit to the stump, keep it circulation so that there isn't enough swelling. I don't have to climb all over people in order to get out. If possible, ask for a seat without another seat in front of you. Often there's the wall with a TV screen that's got a lot more space in front of it. Sometimes I get a seat in the emergency exit, although sometimes for disabled people, I don't see myself as that disabled, but they will not allow us to sit in that seat for safety reasons. But I always try and find a seat with more legroom, and that's why it's possible if you work through an agent, they know the seating arrangements in the planes and the different models, different planes, makes it easier for them to find that seat. Which brings me to an important point, which is book well in advance well ahead of time, if possible, to try and get those good seats. Okay, so luggage. The two kinds of luggage, as we know, it's the check-in and the carry-on. I take 3 bags, and because my trips were extended, I had to make sure that I had enough clothing and stuff for the duration of the trip. I also had to take my filming gear and my camera gear, especially to the States, because that was all about filming, hiking, taking pictures. So my one bag, my backpack, was loaded with camera gear, and there's no ways that I'm going to check that. That has to go into the plane. So I had my backpack with my photographic gear. With that, I took a sling bag that I had all my my essentials in, my passport, any medical documentation that I need, identification that I might need. What I did that I really want to suggest that is worthwhile is I had a small kit that would help me to care for my stump. So I had wipes, so that during the flight or before I disembark, I could go to the bathroom, wipe the stump down, take the leg off, let it breathe a little bit, and with that I take some cream to be able to moisturize the stump as well before I put the sock back on. Also, I took some Bactroban or an antibiotic cream should there be any lesions that I could treat it while I had time in the plane, in the bathroom. I want to strongly recommend, if it's possible, to take a set of crutches. I had crutches that I could fold up quite small. Many reasons for this. The first is, in case of failure of the equipment, I'm stuffed if I don't have my crutches with me for obvious reasons. That's the first. The second is, when you move around with a set of crutches, no matter where you are, and with that I wear shorts, so you have high visibility as an amputee. People tend to be a lot more, they help you a lot more, they're a lot more accommodating in terms of finding seating arrangements. And you must be wondering, how do you carry your suitcase, my wheelie case, my one piece of luggage, my second, my backpack with my photographic gear, and my little sling bag and crutches. Well, when I traveled with my wife, she'd carry the crutches, which had the added advantage of it kind of made her the unofficial assistant they ask whether you need assistance when you board the plane. She would be my assistant, which helped her to be able to board with me, sit next to me. So if you have somebody with you, which I recommend, get them to take your crutches. It's really, really useful as an emergency. I make sure that I have enough time between arriving at the airport and leaving on the plane. This goes for the departure flight from my country of origin, as well as connecting flights, and I had a ton of connecting flights. I would much rather sit in the airport for an hour or two, make sure that I have enough time to move in between flights, and flights sometimes, as we know, they might be late, than rush. I'm on holiday, I don't want to be rushed, and more than anything, I don't want to miss a flight. So I'd much rather sacrifice an additional hour or two at the airport than miss a flight and have to stay at the airport, find another flight for 12 hours or more, or even having to find accommodation to stay over until there's another connecting flight. So when you check in, even if you haven't been allocated a nice seat, get to the airport early. I have often found that when I speak to the check-in, the person does the check-ins at the counter, that if I ask for a better seat, they're so helpful. If you tell them that you're an amputee, that's why I wear the shorts, because when they see it, generally they're so helpful to help you to find a better seat, to sit more comfortably. Also, I have had upgrades. A couple of years ago, I got to the airport. They had spare business seat flights, and they gave me an upgrade to business seat because I'm an amputee and because it had more legroom. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. What I did was I researched the airport. There were two big airports that I had to get around. The one was at Denver, where you have to move between two terminals. I think if I'd gotten there and I hadn't known the airport, it would have been difficult. It would have been, it would have been confusing to get from the one to the other. So I'm glad I'd researched the airport. The other one was at Dubai, which is also an enormous airport, and they're well laid out, but still to have an idea of the airport beforehand enabled me to get from terminal to terminal for my connecting flights a lot quicker. And the same was for Schiphol at Amsterdam, which I think is one of the largest airports in the world. Made it a lot easier for me to get from where I arrived to where I had to depart, and to even have time for a snack in between, or to sit down to have a cup of coffee and to chill. Generally, I find that airport staff are awesome, incredibly helpful with seating arrangements, with making you comfortable. I try and make sure that when I get to the gates, the boarding gates, that I get there at least an hour ahead of time. I think it's important to be, the rules for all these airlines are different. There's no consistency throughout the different airlines for boarding for disabled passengers, but I find that the staff are incredibly helpful and friendly, and when you announce yourself when you get to the gate, they almost without exception would ask me to sit close to them, and when they called for pre-boarding, which would be disabled people in America, the veterans, for example, get privilege preference there, elderly people, people with small children, they would allow me to pre-board, which is awesome because you get into the plane quick. You're able to put your luggage in the find your space for the overhead storage. And I found that once I'm on the plane, if the plane wasn't fully booked, and I asked the air hostess if she had a more comfortable seat for me and she could help, or he, the air host, they would always be helpful. They would be amazing. I really, truly not at one of the airlines that I ever experienced a problem. And I must say, the staff at especially the American airports, the airports in the US, they were amazing, incredibly accommodating and friendly to help me to get onto the flight as quickly as possible, be on the flight as comfortable as possible, find the best possible seat, as well as getting off the flight and moving from the one terminal to the next with as much ease and comfort as possible. So thanks, US. You guys were awesome. I find that when it comes to boarding planes or to finding the best possible space, it's important to be assertive when you reasonably ask for what it is that you need, but never at the expense of others. But it certainly helps. I used to hang around and try and make myself as invisible as possible. I was encouraged by my wife in particular to become more assertive and to announce myself. And I found that if I did that with respect, people would always be helpful. Before we land, about an hour before, I would always get up, go to the bathroom, and clean up, freshen up a little, just because it feels good. But I would always attend to my leg, take off the liner, clean up the stump, freshen it up, apply some new lubricant or cream on it, wipe down the liner with a little antiseptic wet wipes, put it back on and get the leg back on, just to be sure that for all the walking I had to do at the airports, that I would have a stump that was fresh and ready to go. Also at big, large airports, like Dubai, for instance, they have little battery-driven carts, and a lot of people offered me rides in those carts, and of course I would accept. So it was a lot easier and a lot quicker to get from one to the other. So I want to say something about the destination where we go to stay. Number one, I forgot to take my disabled disc, my car disabled disc, and when I went to Europe, ultimately when I went to the States, I did take it, and that gave me a huge break. So to be able to park in disabled spaces, I try generally to avoid that, but if I have no other choice, I would use the disabled disc to find parking. So be sure to take your disabled disc. They are valid and recognized in other countries. When I book a car, I had to make sure that I booked an automatic car. In the US, it's standard fare. All your cars are automatic gearboxes, but generally in Europe or in South Africa where I live, the cars are mostly manual or stick shift, and I can't drive one of those. So to be sure when you book a car to ask for an automatic gearbox. I think very importantly is at the place where I stayed, at my final destination, was to make sure that there was parking outside the venue where I stayed, that the room that I booked, I would generally ask, is it bathroom, is it okay, can I access the bath or the shower as an amputee, that I didn't have to get up and down too many stairs. When I stayed in Barcelona, it was a nightmare. I had to go up, I think it was 5 or 6 flights of narrow stairs, which made life difficult. So trying to avoid accommodation with a lot of steps, and also, for instance, accommodation on steep, we have to get up and down steep walks. You'd be amazed at how much easier it is to find accommodation with easier access. Just, I mean, we spend a lot of time there, we spend a lot of money on our trip. Let's try and minimize the inconvenience as much as we can. And then a final thing I'd like to share with you is generally if you travel with a family member or a friend, they tend to enjoy the same privileges that you do, because they're assisting you in terms of boarding flights, being able to pre-board, especially when they see that they're carrying your crutches, for instance. And it's okay to ask. I mean, we are amputees. I do think it's okay for us, I mean, how many more limbs must I lose? I do think it's okay for us to ask if the person assisting me can pre-board with me and get preferential seating. And people are generally, as I said earlier, very accommodating in terms of your assistant or the person traveling with you to enjoy those privileges alongside you. All right, guys, that is my story for today. Like I said, I'm extremely positive and amped for 2020, for sharing as much as possible content with you. Last year I made too few videos. It's my mission to make more videos this year. I really would like suggestions from you guys. I think we have an amazing community. I love the interaction on our platform. Please stay busy. Please keep coming back. Put those out there. I have seen people commenting that that we're learning from each other, not only from what I have to say, but from the comments that they read. And I think that's awesome. That's exactly what this channel is about. So please, as I said, please hit that subscribe button and that like button if you enjoy the content. And I will see you guys on the next one. Ciao.